Well, a report this morning by the Policy Exchange think tank is urging the government to develop a seabed warfare strategy to protect our undersea fibre optic cables and other critical subsea infrastructure. In 2022, the Nord Stream pipeline in the Baltic Sea was damaged, and there are fears Houthi rebels could target communication cables in the Red Sea. So let's get some more on all of this with former Defence Secretary Sir Michael Fallon. Morning to you.
Good morning, Faye.
So how crucial now is looking at, if you like, the importance of undersea cables, especially as more of us in our infrastructure just rely on online technology and this kind of, this is, the internet is everything, isn't it now?
Yeah, absolutely right. And all the more so because we're an island and we depend on those cables for our financial system, for our data, even for our energy supply. So it's all the more important now that we take this much more seriously. And that's what Policy Exchange report is calling for, that we do adapt a comprehensive seabed strategy, that we do beef up the way in which we handle this in government, and we invest in some of the sensors and underwater vehicles and ships that we need to detect any malign activity along the cable routes.
And would you say these cables are vulnerable as it stands now?
Yes, they are vulnerable. We've already seen the Nord Stream gas pipeline that you referred to. We've already seen that being attacked. But we've also had threats from the Houthis in the Red Sea. That's a key route for some of the cables to the Far East. And even in my time, there were Russian trawlers lingering over some of our key transatlantic cables. And we've seen a lot of malign activity by Russian ships over in the Atlantic, over those key cable routes. And therefore, we do have to be on our guard now as to exactly how we can better protect them.
And how do you protect this kind of undersea, these cables? What has to be put there? Is it sort of keeping a watch on them? Is it other protections literally physically built over them? How's that all work?
Well, first, you have to have the equipment to do it. You have to have sensors along the key cables so you can know when the cables are being interfered with. You have to have the underwater vehicles that can go down there and explore, and you have to have the ships above them that can do this kind of work. That's what other countries are now investing in. Russia has ships like that. The Chinese are now doing the same over in the Indo-Pacific. So we need to invest in the right equipment. And secondly, as the Policy Exchange report makes clear, we need to be much more coordinated in government. Some of this is dealt with by the Department of Transport, some of it by the Foreign Office because of international conventions, and a bit of it by the Ministry of Defence. We need to bring all that together and have a comprehensive seabed strategy that better protects the key cables.
And you mentioned the challenges we're facing from Houthi rebels. Is it quite feasible then that you think they could indeed target communication cables in the Red Sea?
Yes, the Red Sea is one of the key trading routes. Ships bringing our goods come past it, but it's also one of the key international seabed cable routes of the world, linking Europe with the Far East. So the Houthis are very well aware of that. They're already using underwater weapons against ships. So it's wholly possible now that they will seek to block or to cut some of those key cables. And that is not a remote prospect. That could cause turmoil in some of our international trading. It could cause turmoil in the financial markets, and it could cut us all off from the systems that we rely on every day through the internet.
I mean, that is really serious, isn't it? I mean, there's no, that's, pretty awful. I mean, obviously that the Houthi rebels, their action coming from the Middle East conflict between Israel and Gaza. Just thinking of your role as a former defence secretary, we have heard today that an Israeli ground offensive in Rafah in southern Gaza could begin in around 3 weeks' time, around the start of Ramadan, if Hamas don't release those Israeli hostages. What's your response to that and your take on those words this morning we've been hearing?
Well, like everybody else, I want to see, proper pause in the fighting so that more aid can get in and people have the chance to get out. and those who need hospital treatment can get it. And I really hope that's simply got to be the next step. There's a lot of argument about the various wording, but I think everybody's agreed now that there really has to be a stop to the fighting now, so that we can get the right aid in and allow people to escape.
And just quickly, if I may, just get your view on the death of Alexei Navalny. We're going to likely hear some response from MPs today after the recess they've just had. What kind of impact is this now having, would you say, from the international community's views on Russia?
Well, it's shocking, really, the way Navalny has been treated, and it looks to be shocking the way he's died. It looks to be rather certainly suspicious. And that's a reminder, I think, to everybody that Putin and his regime are actually evil. They're not just capable of invading other countries, but they are capable of murdering at home, murdering anybody who stands up against them. And there've been a succession now of people who've fallen out with Putin and then, of course, have mysteriously died in different circumstances. What this shows is that Putin is actually now a man who will stop at nothing to recover the territories that the Soviet Union has lost, and will stop at nothing to crush dissent at home. We've got to step up again now and take the threat from Russia much more seriously.
OK, so Michael Fallon, former Secretary of State for Defence, many thanks for joining us here on LBC News this morning.